To give us a little bit of context on the trade tensions, we're joined now by Irene Chen. She's an attorney with Mei and Mark LLP and a former legal advisor for the U.S. Commerce Department and the U.S. International Trade Commission. So walk us through this. I mean, what we got was the pronouncement from the U.S. president. They'll come up with an announcement later of the possible companies that are going to be affected. There's this 30-day period where people can make appeals. Kind of give us the landscape. I mean, what happens next?
Well, last week when President Trump announced the intention to place tariffs on about $60 billion worth of Chinese imports, he did it. There were two paths that he took. One was a unilateral action to place the tariffs on a number of product categories, which will be announced in about 2 weeks. The other action he took was to direct his U.S. Trade Representative, Robert Lighthizer, to file a request for consultations at the World Trade Organization to start that process under multilateral rules. However, it's pretty clear from the way the Trump administration has been conducting all of these trade issues is President Trump would like to cut to the chase. He would like to force countries to the table by announcing these unilateral actions, and from some countries it appears to be working. Some already some discussions for a settlement with the EU, South Korea, and now the big question is China.
But you kind of get the feeling that some countries would say, I've seen this movie before, I know how it ends, we're going to write a different ending. So China is in a much stronger position, some might say, than other countries when it comes to this sort of thing. And then if it does end up tit for tat, and we're seeing some examples of that, how do you create an off-ramp where you can reduce the tensions?
Well, apparently, some officials from the Trump administration have already begun talks with the Chinese officials. It's my understanding U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, U.S. Trade Rep, they sent a letter outlining some concrete demands. And I think that was where sort of the quagmire was, is that for months these trade tensions have been escalating, but China was saying, well, what do you want? So apparently, this letter outlined, lower tariffs on U.S. automobiles, more open access for financial companies, lesser restrictions, technology transfers. And so that gives China something to respond to. So in that sense, there is some productive negotiating going on. And here's the thing, the Trump administration does have a lot at risk politically because China is its largest trading partner. So all of the products, the imports, they're all intertwined in the U.S. supply chain. And so if this drags on for some period of time, the Trump administration will be facing backlash domestically. So they have a real incentive to also try to hammer out a deal. Maybe they don't get everything they want, but if they get maybe half or 25%, that's already a win.
And it's interesting, there are unintended consequences of tariffs. His predecessors, both George W. Bush and Obama, imposed tariffs. In the case of Bush, it was steel. With Obama, it was tires. And there's been studies that indicate that they cost more jobs than they actually saved. And when you look at how much steel and aluminum here in the United States in terms of manufacturing is minuscule, this is more of a political gesture. So talk to me about that.
Absolutely. These tariffs represent a tax on the U.S. economy because you're diverting money and commerce towards specific industries or towards the U.S. government coffers that could be used for reinvestment, used to purchase more goods. And here's the thing, U.S. business, they want certainty. And if they think, okay, they're importing something that's going to have a tariff put on it, before it even comes to U.S. shores, they're not going to want to buy. Yeah. They're going to want to wait and see. And for the Trump administration, President Trump ran on a pro-business platform. So he can't really afford to alienate really the GOP, those constituents who want a pro-business, a growing economy.
Yeah, we're already seeing the stock market all over the place as well. He probably is not happy with that either.
Well, the stock market is a barometer of how the U.S. business community feels.